We are 70% water in mass, our body, but 99% of all of our molecules are actually very light water molecules. Water. Now we're living in time where planet is rapidly changing electromagnetically. Mother Earth is being awakened. What we realized in our research is that water currently exists in what we call a chaotic state. So it's still H2O. But H2O molecules, they move randomly, they're crashing into each other constantly. But since all of this is happening on an atomic level, nobody's really aware of that. In our research, we realized that water is always going to pick up the most dominant frequency of its environment. Always. I believe the greatest scientist of all time, Nikola Tesla, he said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And water is a broadband absorber, receiver, and transmitter of energy, frequency, and vibration, and therefore is at the very heart of it. So if you introduce the water at its highest frequency, at its optimum state, everything that is being exposed to it changes in a positive way. This is exactly the mission statement of our company. We want to make all bodies of water on this planet coherent again. And this water connects you to that rhythm. You're part of the whole awakening process.
Today, we have a very special guest I've been looking forward to meeting, especially after his product got me pulled aside by airport police. It all started because of this little thing inside my bag, and I'll share the full story later in the episode, so stick around. But first, let me introduce you to today's guest. Mario Brainovic is the founder of Analemma, a revolutionary tool that transforms ordinary water into a coherent liquid crystalline state with scientifically proven benefits for human health, consciousness, and longevity. His works bridges the gap between science, nature, and spirituality, challenging what we think we know about water. So welcome, Mario.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a huge topic. I believe truly that the next century is going to be a century of water. Scientists all over the planet have been discovering the extraordinary, like the world's hidden in water. So I'm super happy that I'm here to tell the story about it. You know, this whole project is 15 years in making, 50 plus scientists over 3 continents. So we really went down the rabbit hole. So we did a lot of studies, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies on humans. We did studies on animals. We did studies on plant health. We did studies on soil health and environment as a whole. And we realized that whichever biological system you expose to this particular water, it just starts thriving. And it really is remarkable.
Beautiful. I think my audience will be definitely interested in the soil part. But before we dive into the research, the benefits, and the product itself, I'd love to start with a personal question. What sparked your curiosity about water in the first place? Was there a specific moment where your perception shifted from seeing water as just H2O to a living, intelligent medium?
Well, I would say I was always super interested about health and wellness and spirituality. So this is what's the basis of my life. And water has always been super connected to that. But I would say that the biggest dive happened once I entered into this project. Because even though you know that there is something special, once you really start to experience and witness the changes, then you can you can really experience what is in the background of everything. Just so you know, we barely scratched the surface of the beauty of this. And already that really kind of focused my life in this direction.
When you talk about experiencing and witnessing changes, you're talking about how consuming structured water changes your consciousness or your
Everything.
health.
Yeah, everything. Well, it's a perfect moment just to jump in the. Then we can explain the whole concept. But just to explain the first study that we actually did, since we realized that this water is an electromagnetic phenomenon. Okay, we were thinking, what's the most electromagnetic part of human biology that we can very accurately measure? And it's our brainwaves. So what we did a double-blind golden standard study because we took two genetically identical twins. And we put QEEG equipment on their heads, and we were looking at brainwave patterns in detail. And we gave 2 glasses of water. One was Analemma water, the other one was regular water. The doctor administering the water didn't know which one was which, and twins didn't know which one was which. And we were just monitoring to see whether something would happen. And the twin that took a couple of sips of regular water, like you would expect, we saw no change. So brainwave patterns, everything stayed basically the same. But as when the twin that took a couple of sips of Analemma water, we were super surprised how fast it happened. There was almost instant better connection between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, and almost instant harmonizing effect on the brainwaves, which was like, whoa. This was first powerful, irrefutable evidence that something biologically remarkable happens when people drink this water. We actually repeated the experiments 3 weeks later, and we gave Analemma water to the other twin. And we saw exactly the same phenomenon, while now the first twin experienced nothing. So when you witness something like that, and when you see such powerful shift, there's this delta coherence that happens in brainwaves. Usually this happens when people either meditate or are on psychedelics. So something actually shifts, which is very palpable and scientifically very measurable. So this was just a first kind of human study that we did that really proved, okay, we have something extraordinary here. And this actually opened door to all of the studies that we did, and there are really a lot of them by now.
What is it about structured water that makes it fundamentally different from regular water for somebody who doesn't know?
Yeah, so we realized in our research that water currently exists in what we call a chaotic state. So it's still H2O. But H2O molecules in regular water, they move randomly. They're crashing into each other constantly. But since all of this is happening on an atomic level, nobody's really aware of that. There is a way to bring order into that chaos. So what we realized in our research is that water currently exists in what we call a chaotic state. So it's still H2O. But H2O molecules, they move randomly. They're crashing into each other constantly. But since all of this is happening on an atomic level, nobody's really aware of that. This chaos actually has a profound effect on our health and wellness, even though we are completely unaware. Luckily, as nature has an extraordinary design, there is a way to bring those same chaotic H2O molecules back into harmony. So colloquially speaking, those same H2O molecules, they join hands and they start forming this very special liquid crystalline state. We realize that there are these coherent fields that start to emerge in water. If water enters into oneness or unison with itself, it starts to move like one. Through this unique process, water becomes alive. It becomes empowered, and we truly believe that this is how nature intended water to be. I always tell this just to explain the concept to people. For instance, if you take a light bulb of 5 watts, it will give you some light. But if you take 5-watt laser, which is a coherent form of light, you can drill a hole through your table. So it's a focused form of light. The same thing is with water. Water enters into this very particular state. And as I mentioned, we tested it on humans, we tested it on plants, we tested it on animals, and we tested environmental impacts of this water. And results were just mind-blowing.
Yeah, I also heard you talk about testing various spring waters and finding that many weren't actually coherent in their structure. I think this is probably something that people who are listening to this are thinking of, that what if I drink water that is from a spring, and then how long is that water actually going to stay coherent?
So we realized actually that even if it's spring water, it's not in coherent state. The only place where you will find coherent water in its natural state, it's somewhere remote. You really have to go far away from the civilization. And even then, we tested it when you take the water out of its natural environment, water molecules break and they go back to chaos.
How quickly?
This is very fast. Actually, there are some scientists which developed some methods of bringing water into coherent state, and they're using vortexing, magnets, crystals. But we tested basically almost all of them, and water does enter into a different state, but it stays in that state anywhere between a couple of minutes and day and a half. Then the water molecules again break, and the water goes back to chaos. This is what's special about this technology. We now tested it for 7 consecutive years. After just one treatment, water never goes back to chaos. It just resists. There is such a powerful resilience to it that water molecules remember that state and it never goes out. And we actually tried to break those bonds in various ways. We usually, for instance, EMFs. They have really detrimental effect. For instance, if you take a glass of water and put it next to your Wi-Fi router, that's the worst thing you can do because water molecules go crazy. It's really become super chaotic. But we tested this, and even when radiated, we actually did the test when we radiated with 5G very close range, and water molecules broke. But as soon as we stopped the radiation, and we're talking about really powerful one, not just like what you're experiencing while you're walking around, we really radiated at close range. As soon as we stopped with it, water molecules remembered its dominant natural state, and they came back together.
It's incredible.
So it really is an incredible thing. That's why I mentioned, when when you witness such beautiful things, then for me, I just want to serve in whatever way I can to bring this water to as much people as possible.
Yeah, because I recently did some research and I hear people talk about storing water in like amber glass or blue glass to kind of keep it longer alive or structured. But this is like completely breaking everything that I've heard before, that it's staying in that structured form irrespective of what's happening. And even if it gets out of it, it comes back to it.
Yeah, so I have to tell you kind of the whole story behind it because it's super fascinating. So in our research, we realized that water is always going to pick up the most dominant frequency of its environment. Always. So it stores, water always searches for the most dominant frequency. When we realized that, our whole quest was to create the most positive, dominant frequency water there is, because we knew that if we would expose any other water to it, since water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, all the water would become exactly like this. So this is how we created what we call the mother water. It takes us 1 full year to create the mother water. It's 5-stage process, and after 5th stage process, water never goes back. It just stays in that very particular state. And what we did then is we actually put mother water inside a crystal vial. So this crystal vial has 2 purposes. Of course, one, to create the barrier between the rest of the water through which you're swirling and the mother water inside. But more importantly, crystal serves as a superconductor. it allows the frequency of mother water to pass without any loss. So in an effect, when you take the Analemma, which is actually crystal vial with the stainless steel holder on top, and you submerge the crystal vial, you have it in your hand, and when you start swirling through the glass of water, so what happens is as soon as any of the chaotic H2O molecules comes into close proximity to the mother water, it starts to mimic its exact structure. So after 30 seconds of swirling, in an effect, you actually get a glass of mother water. And when you drink it, that's when all the magic happens. And we did, as I mentioned, double-blind placebo-controlled studies where we proved, we can go into every single study, but your entire mitochondrial energy of the body increases more than significantly. Now everybody is talking about NAD levels and how NAD is super important. Your NAD levels rise more than significantly just by drinking the water. We did double-blind placebo-controlled microbiome studies. We did biological age studies. Every single study proved a powerful effect on our overall biology.
Yeah, there's so much more fascinating research backing Analemma. And I think for those who are deeply interested in checking out the science, I'll add the link in the description so they can check out the website, and I'll leave a affiliate link also if anybody wants to purchase it. It supports the channel and my work as a creator. I personally use it, and I do feel the benefits on my health and well-being. As I mentioned to you before, I tried drinking spring water, like fresh spring water, where the moment I touch the water, it's so soft, and I wash my face and it's like I put soap on my face. So the softness of the water is incredible, but within 24 hours, that structure is gone. I feel it.
It's gone.
And it doesn't matter how we store it, especially large quantities of it, it's difficult. And I even did, I took a bath and I just stirred the water with the Analemma water, with, how do you call it?
Wand, Analemma wand.
I stirred the water with the wand, and for me, it's difficult to explain because it's not happening on a mental level, on an intellectual level. It's happening on a much deeper level than I feel words can even explain. But it's beautiful that you did studies on it to prove that it's working.
Yeah, we're going to go into all of the studies, but it's cool that you mentioned this because, when we created the whole house system, which you can install in the piping system of your house, then wherever you open your faucet, you get an Analemma water. It was super intriguing for us because, we are 70% water in mass, our body, but 99% of all of our molecules are actually very light water molecules. That, we're basically very clever H2O. We're more water than the ocean, molecular wise, if you can imagine. So it's like there is something important there that we're not paying attention. But anyhow, since we knew in our research that water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, our whole thing was like, what would happen if people will take a bath in Analemma water? What would happen if they would just take a 20 to 30 minute bath? And we actually connected to Lumari Wellness in San Diego and Dr. Greg Lane, my dear friend David Perez, and they had various equipment to measure various vitals before and after. So what we did, we actually measured cardiac output, stroke volume, blood viscosity, and most importantly, heart rate variability, because heart rate variability is very accurate sign of health and longevity. So we did a 100 people study. Every single person in the study experienced improvement in all markers. The bare minimum improvement in heart rate variability that we saw was 30%. The bare minimum. I'm not even going to go into how high actually it went for some individuals because people wouldn't believe. But you have to experience, like you took a bath and you experienced something. We are water. And when you find yourself in the environment, which is frequency-wise very high, your entire body responds. So this is something which is kind of super cool. And it's cool that you actually did it yourself, so you experienced it. But for this purposes, we created a whole house system, so people don't even have to. You just open a faucet and you drink the water, or you just take a bath. More importantly, take a bath, because you don't have to do anything. But it's super cool. I tell people that this is the simplest way. If you can just swirl it for a while, or you can leave it under the faucet, under the running water, until the bathtub fills, and you're going to get the same effect.
But it says in the instruction manual, I think it mentions that when we heat it up, that the structure changes. Is that correct?
Yes, it doesn't change. When you reach a boiling point, what happens is that molecules, for a short period of time, they break. As soon as it cools down under 100, molecules go back.
Okay. All right.
Because it's an excited state of water, So water molecules can stay in that state because it's excited, it's boiling. As soon as it cools down to a certain level, molecules go back. So
I always wondered if I heat it up and I drink it as a tea or as a liquid, will still come back to structure.
No worries, because you cannot drink boiling water; it will burn you. So as soon as it's ready for drinking, meaning, I don't know, 70, whatever the temperature is, as soon as it drops down below boiling, water molecules go back to the coherent state.
And I also wondered, so stirring is how it is advised. If it would be just kept in the water, would it also...
It works as well. It works as well, but it will take a bit longer. The whole idea is to kind of cover. The swirling just makes it faster. That's the only reason. You can just leave it in the glass of water and leave it for a minute. It will have exactly the same effect, depending on the quantity of water. If we're talking about 2-liter pitcher, then you would have to leave it there for a bit longer.
Yes, yeah, that makes sense. I think it's not a big task to stir for, I think, a minute per liter, correct?
Yeah, actually even less than that. Well, yeah, a minute per liter, I would say. Yeah. That you're right on. A minute per liter.
Yeah, and it feels like if it's staying in that state, then I can do 5 liters and I can drink that over a day. So
yeah, you just swirl it in the morning, make it so, and basically that's it. The way I use it is I'm always using spring water, and I make it coherent, but I'm actually using several of vials, which I keep inside. But that's why we're actually going to be coming out very soon with a pitcher, which actually is a whole pitcher with the Analemma inside. So you just can pour the water in and leave it there, and we're going to have 2-liter pitcher. So people can actually, you just fill it in whenever during the day, so you don't have to swirl or do anything. And the current product is going to become a travel thing. So wherever you go, you can always use the wand to make your water coherent.
Since you're talking about traveling, I think this is a time for me to share the story. I don't know if did you travel with it before?
No, I understood that it might be a problem. So I always tell people, leave it, don't take it in your carry-on, leave it, check it in. That's the safest place, so you don't have a problem with it. Because when this is water, and they're pretty kind of adamant about not kind of putting water inside or whatever. So I always, in all my podcasts, I always tell people, and we have it frequently asked questions and everywhere, don't take it with you in the carry-on, because, TSA can create a world of trouble for you. But I'm really interested to hear what happened to you.
Absolutely. And you and I told them, I'm going to tell this to the founder because I want him to know. So about 3 months ago, my wife and me were going through the airport security in Frankfurt, Germany. And everything was going exactly as we had intended and visualized until my backpack got flagged. And they used a code word to flag my bag. They didn't even tell me what was happening. So I was standing there looking at them and thinking, what did I find in my bag? There's nothing in there. I already took out all the electronics. There was nothing in there. And I completely forgot about this. So I was standing there and I looked at them and no one wanted to talk to me. Like they just ignored me. And I thought, okay, there must be something dangerous in there. So after about 10, 15 minutes, I got to talk to one of them and I said, what happened? What did you find? And then he said, we've detected an explosive. Next thing I know, they're calling the police. And at that moment, instead of panicking, my wife and I just surrendered. And honestly, we found it pretty funny. For such, like, they could have just opened it, showed it to me, I would have explained it to them.
Yeah.
But it was like, no, you cannot touch the bag now, it's contaminated.
Yeah.
And the police arrived with guns, like, you know, like proper. They came, they looked at me, they opened the bag, and what did they found? They found this with the package. And they asked me, what is this? And I said, it's a device to make structured water. And then they said, what? Structured water. And then they said, I never heard about structured water. And the other guy was also like, no, I don't know what is structured water. And then they said, okay. Then I opened it and I said, okay, is there anything other than water in there? And I said, no. And then they said, okay, how is it working? And then I had to explain them the science of what is structured water, how do we use it, and then I opened the box and I showed them where it's manufactured, and then
it's manufactured in the Netherlands, really close to Frankfurt. Yeah.
I mean, they opened it and they were curious, and I ended up being able to kind of give them a little bit of insights about something that they might have never come across.
Yeah,
and
cool.
Yeah, it was, you know, instead of letting us just go, they actually took a picture of it. And the guy from one of the employees, he started asking me more about the product. What did I feel? Is there any difference?
Amazing. I love that. I love that.
So that was
yeah, I mean, like, that's why, you know, just so people avoid, I mean, it was super cool experience at the end, but just so people avoid any inconvenience, just like you've experienced.
Yeah.
I always say to people, just keep it on the, you know, you check in the bag, that's all good.
I was just thinking, what if in the checking bag they find it and they flag it?
No. It will never happen. No,
okay.
No. Well, we've sold thousands and thousands and thousands of units all over the planet, and we never had a single report that TSA, that airport security anywhere, actually red flagged any bag with it.
All right. Well, I think it's still a funny story, and for
it's
me
a cool
big
story.
learning.
Yeah.
to stay relaxed and to not freak out, and you know, because the police was also looking at my body language, looking at how I behave.
Yeah.
And they were scared.
Oh man. Well, you know, it's so interesting how people have these, you know, ideas and prejudices and whatever kind of they find which is out of the box. It's always like it's a bad thing or whatever. I don't know how it kind of showed up as an explosive to them.
I think water like liquid inside a crystal, and then I think that's
maybe
kind of
nitroglycerin or whatever. Who knows?
Yeah, it was. I didn't know what they were saying. They had some code words. But it is what it is. It happened.
Yeah, it was a super funny experience. But now you can say to everybody, just keep it in the check-in bag, and you're not going to have issues like that. Yeah.
I want to jump to the future of water science. What do you see?
This is going to be super exciting. Super exciting. Well, I would say since 99% of our molecules are water, science will start to realize, I mean, our science clearly proves it. When you change that part of human biology, everything else changes. This is the most fundamental level of our existence. If you make a shift there, everything else would change. So we proved, as I mentioned, So we measured ATP levels is like, this is the key indicator and marker of mitochondrial energy, which has profound effects on basically every single area of our health. We actually employed luciferase, which is an enzyme that catalyzes light production in bioluminescent organisms. And due to its extraordinary sensitivity, you can very accurately measure ATP levels in humans. So we did a double-blind placebo-controlled study, which proved. So just to explain the study a little bit, we took a snapshot of ATP levels in people. Then they drank 1.5 liters of Analemma water per day without changing anything else in the world. So they didn't change their diets. They didn't take any supplements. They didn't change their exercise regime. Everything stayed the same. The only thing that was changed was the water. And after 2 months, we took another test. And we saw 20% rise in overall mitochondrial energy over the placebo. When you calculate the placebo in, that's 1/3. And we're not talking about Red Bull energy here. We're talking about actual mitochondrial energy of the body. And scientists now agree that one of the key causes of cellular aging is a decline in mitochondrial function. And we proved that just by drinking the water, your mitochondrial function increases more than significantly. So this has profound effects on your entire biology. The next thing that I mentioned is, I have to say this because this is the latest study. Everybody's talking about NAD. So NAD is the coenzyme that actually exists in every living cell. And it's essential for basically any process inside of a body. It's called cellular fountain of youth because high levels of NAD has been connected not only to a longer lifespan, but to a longer health span. Because NAD activates sirtuins, which are in charge of repairing of the damaged DNA. So anyhow, it has overarching effect on overall health and wellness. It was again double-blind placebo-controlled studies through which we proved that. So as I mentioned, once you change the water, everything else changes. So that's why I think this century will be the century of the discovery of how incredibly important water is for human health and wellness. But I have to say one thing, because your crowd is a crowd listening to you is deeply in spirituality, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I will tell you one study which truly blew my mind and minds of everybody in our company. So we actually, in the beginning, picked up a whole lab from famous German scientist, Dr. Fritz Albert Popp. He developed this technology which can capture biophotons. So biophotons are these tiny particles of light which every biological system exudes. So more biophotons biological system exudes, more vitality it has. And early on, we realized when you water plants with Analemma water, biophoton emissions go exponentially high. It's just the light starts to happen. Literally, the plants start to exude much more light. So we did a study on seeds. So these tiny, tiny, tiny pieces of life. Very simple. And what we did, we watered some seeds with regular water, and we watered some seeds with Analemma water, and we monitored biophoton emissions to see whether something would happen. With seeds that were watered with regular water, we didn't see anything special happening. But as soon as we started to water seeds with Analemma water, we started seeing these peaks and valleys of biophoton emission, like the seed, this tiny piece of light started to breathe the light in and out, but in a very long way. So like, this is something truly biologically remarkable. And we couldn't explain it. So we connected to other scientists. And after a while, we realized that it started to follow the tides. So when Analemma water connected this tiny piece of life to the circadian rhythm of nature, it connected it to its larger electromagnetic environment. So this seed started to electromagnetically move with life, move with planet Earth. And the same thing happens with us. So not only will be more connected within ourselves, we'll be more connected to the relevant environment. We're moving with the planet Earth. Now we're living in time where planet is rapidly changing electromagnetically. Mother Earth is being awakened. And this water connects you to that rhythm. So you're moving with it, not separate from it. You're part of the whole awakening process. And we would say that this is the most important effect that this water has. So all of the biological effects, all of the health effects, they're there. We proved it, and we're continuously proving it. But I would say the most important thing is this connection. It connects you to the movement of consciousness that is actually happening on the planet. So, when that happened, it was like, and for us, it was like, okay, whatever needs to happen so that we move this in the world, whatever needs to happen that we bring this to as much people as possible, we're just doing.
Yeah, I'm glad to be part of that mission. I
Thank
realized
you. Thank you.
just in the last 6 months, I paid more attention to sun, water, the electromagnetic field.
Magnetic, yeah.
And I would say these three are what are in our control. For example, air is something that most of the times, especially when you go outside, it's hard to control. Inside, maybe you can do certain things, but outside, you're it depends where you are. But with sun, water, and the field, it's these three you can very much control.
And I have to tell you, I have to tell you one interesting thing when you mention EMF, because this is where it really gets interesting. We're the first scientists on the planet that we proved that your brainwave patterns change dramatically for the worst when you use cell phones, which is a man-made electromagnetic frequency. And this is an interesting study that we did. We actually put a QEEG equipment on people's heads. We gave them to use the cell phone for 3 minutes. All of them had detrimental effect on the brainwaves. The brainwaves went into chaotic pattern. And what we did then, we gave regular water to some and Analemma water to the other ones. Exactly the same thing happened like in the identical twins study. Almost as soon as the people that drank regular water, Analemma water, there was an instant better connection with the left and right hemisphere of the brain, an instant harmonizing effect on the brain waves. While the guys that took regular water, this negative effect on the brain waves persisted much, much longer. So this is the effect, and we proved that this water resists the negative effect of EMFs. And how we proved it actually in a different way. This is also super interesting. So what we did, we took rainwater and we radiated it with 5G. Okay? You can imagine how radiated water, because water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, whether it's good or bad. Okay? So we took that water and we watered plants with it. They all died. But you know what we did then? We took we radiated the water, same time, same everything. Okay? And we used Analemma water on it. And then we watered the plants, and plants thrived. So everything, the biophoton emissions, the health of the plant, every single marker of the health of the plant went up. And after that, we did a lot of various agriculture studies. And here you mentioned soil. We're going to come come into that very soon. But I just wanted to mention that since we have this extraordinary saturation of 5G on the planet, it's super important to be drinking this water because it's the only thing that protects you from these effects. So yeah, I'm going to jump in the soil study. Remember that
I just want to say one thing.
Please.
I want to say there are certain things which are out there which we can use for also helping us with the EMF, but these products are very expensive. And I'm talking about like very, very expensive, and not just expensive, but they're tiny in their effect. And they're also in the sense of the effect is very specific. So I would say that if you just compare the products that I have personally seen that are out there against what all the things that you mentioned that Analemma does so far, it's just like it's in a completely different league.
It has this overarching effect. So it's not like just one thing. You have this extraordinary plethora of effects on your biology. So it's not just protected for one end. There are so many things that are actually happening in how your biology responds to it. To jump into the soil thing, because it's super exciting. I love that. So since this technology is being manufactured in the Netherlands, and Netherlands is one of the most agriculturally used countries on the planet. 98% of all agricultural land in the Netherlands is being really heavily used. So we are talking about decades and decades and decades of, I would say, abuse of soil with glyphosate, with various toxins. So what we did, we took a really, really bad, killed, the really dead piece of soil, which is barren. You couldn't grow anything on it. It was dead. So this was like, okay, let's see if something would happen there. So one part we watered with regular water as a control, and one part we watered with Analemma water. And then after a while, we tested what happened on a molecular level within the soil. So the part that was watered with regular water, it was still dead. So nothing happened, really zero movement whatsoever. It was dead in any way you can imagine. But the part that was watered with Analemma water, there was a huge explosion in biodiversity of the microbiome. There are these colonies of bacteria that started to appear out of nowhere into the soil. The total nitrogen cycle got improved tremendously. The total nitrogen in the soil itself, so not just the cycle, improved tremendously. So within only 2 months, that piece of soil became fertile again. And you could grow food on it. And a very interesting thing, usually when the rain falls, all of the minerals and nutrients go to deeper layer of the soil. But we realize that when you water the soil with Analemma water, there is a huge retainment of those nutrients and minerals in the top layer of the soil where the plant can actually use it. But this is where it really gets interesting. All of these bacteria, this explosion of life that happened, these bacteria, they need CO2 as their primary fuel. And they started to suck CO2 out of the atmosphere in the soil where it belongs. So it's such a cool and elegant and natural way to treat the excess CO2 in our atmosphere. You just water the earth with it, microbiome of the soil changes, and everything, there is this equilibrium that starts happening. I love this extraordinary harmony in nature. Trees breathe out oxygen, which we need. And we breathe out CO2, and everything that we're doing on the planet there's a lot of CO2. And plants need CO2 as their primary source of fuel. So there is this equilibrium, this harmony. And we realize that this water creates exactly that. It creates harmony. It creates this equilibrium. If something is too excess, then it the scale moves, so there is this natural harmony start to happen. This is what we observed.
It sounds very incredible. I mean, this, I just wish whoever listens to this and, whoever is curious about it does puts a little bit of, their time and effort into just being part of this mission, because it sounds like we can solve a lot of the issues that the planet Earth is having right now just by focusing on the water that we put into our bodies onto the earth. And it's so simple.
I agree with you, and thank you for mentioning this, because this is exactly the mission statement of our company. We want to make all bodies of water on this planet coherent again. We already created this eco-friendly technology that we can put at the wells of the biggest rivers. So then all the water down the stream would be coherent. All the life down the stream would change, and this water will end up where? In the oceans. And in the very short period of time, we can have a coherent planet. We're going to start to vibrate in entirely different way. And that will have a profound effect on every living thing on the planet. This is what we want. We want to bring this to a governmental level so that we can really deploy it everywhere. Because I believe the greatest scientist of all time, Nikola Tesla, he said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And water is a broadband absorber, receiver, and transmitter of energy, frequency, and vibration, and therefore is at the very heart of it. So if you introduce the water at its highest frequency, at its optimum state, everything that is being exposed to it changes in a positive way.
Mario, this has been an incredible conversation. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this revolutionary knowledge with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I believe, I had this vision of connection on the planet. We need to start to create network of people and influences that truly vibrationally changes the world in a positive way. And you are part of that. You are a beacon of right information in your environment. So if we all join hands, this is what coherent water is teaching us. If we step out of the chaos and if we join hands together, then our true power is being unleashed, just like water. Water can exist in chaotic state, or it can come into unison with itself. We are like water molecules, every single one of us. And if we connect to one another and start to move in unison with one another, then our true power is going to be unleashed, and our true consciousness and purpose is going to be unleashed in the most natural and beautiful way.
I'll make sure to do my best to bring this forward in the best way that I can, and I'll also make sure to introduce this to as many people as I can, for them to become aware of this, because I understand that this is not about you. It's not about the product in the sense of what am I getting out of selling this product. It's about how can I offer this product to the world on a larger scale so that everybody benefits from it.
Exactly that. It's about, we don't feel in the, I haven't mentioned this and I have to mention, Dr. Eric Larker is the actual inventor of this water. So he himself, he himself said that, like, we are all stewards of this water. He didn't say like, well, I came up with it. It just, the time came. Mother Earth is the hidden voice of this project. And we are all serving that to the best of our ability.
To everyone watching, let us know in the comments what's one thing about water you never knew before today. And if you're curious to try Analemma for yourself, check out the link that I'm going to share in the description. And yeah, once again, Mario, I'm Just
Thank you, thank you,
honored
thank you,
to.
thank you for having me. It's up, like the pleasure is all mine, and one thing that I truly love about this whole process is meeting people that are extraordinary. There are so many people which are truly, truly beautiful, and they came to this point in time on planet Earth to do a particular service, to really spread the information that is relevant for this time. And so I want to honor you and your contribution, because by just living your purpose and sharing all of these informations, you will literally changing people's lives. And this is why you're a light worker. So thank you, brother.
I have to start watering the whole neighborhood with the water. You're bringing these ideas to me now, where I'm like, how can I bring this water to the whole society? It's like almost like a purpose is being unleashed.
Well, this is what we're all about, and this is what we want to do. That's why we want to bring it to the governmental level, so
Yeah.
that countries, everyone kind of comes together, and we can change the frequency of the planet in the most powerful way.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.